Alright guys, so we finally got the first decent Drake track since his beef ended with Kendrick Lamar. And I say that because after Kendrick obliterated Drake with Not Like Us, the only music we heard from Drake since then is a track with him and Sexy Red where he's rapping on the BBL Drizzy beat, his Waste Youth anthem Wagwan Delilah, where he's trying his best to sound like the Scarborough version of Weird Al Yankovic. And he released a couple pop records with Camila Cabello and Gordo, which sound like leftovers off his 2022 dance album Honestly Nevermind. Now, in a strange turn of events, considering how massive Drake features usually are, like they're usually shooting up to the top of the Billboard chart. Even if they're not successful records in the long term, just having Drake's name on your record usually means you'll crack the top 40, top 30 of the charts. But since his beef with Kendrick, not one of the records that Drake has released has hit even the top 50 of the Billboard charts. Which makes you question, is Drake's run at the top of the game, where he was able to drop hits so effortlessly, is that run done at this point? Now, where I take issue is in the fact that people keep saying that Kendrick Lamar is milking the success of Not Like Us. They're saying that Kendrick can only get a hit song if he drops a diss track against Drake, and they're saying that Not Like Us is the biggest hit of his career, that he's going to go back into hiding, that he's milking the whole thing by doing a music video and a concert. But if you really dissect the moves that both Kendrick and Drake make, you'll see that the farthest thing Kendrick is doing is milking this thing. Throughout this entire beef, Kendrick has not tweeted a single thing, he hasn't put anything on Instagram, all he's done is drop records. And he's keeping it strictly focused on the music, whether it's doing a legendary show and uniting his entire city, or dropping one of the best music videos of the last decade, which was riddled with clever references to Drake and odes to the heritage and culture within his city. There's been rumors for months now that Kendrick is about to drop an album, and I don't think ever in hip-hop history has there been a better time or a rapper has been better positioned to drop one of the biggest albums of their career than right now for Kendrick Lamar. Like, he's lined it up perfectly. He has the #1 song in the country. He just defeated the biggest rapper in one of the biggest hip-hop beefs of all time, and he's kept fans waiting years for his next release. So if he was really trying to milk this thing or extract as much money from this whole beef and all the drama that ensued with it as much as possible, he would have already released his album. But instead, he's keeping that artistic integrity, he's focusing on the quality of the project, and he has not spoken about this album once. For all we know, he could be working on it for the next 3 years before we ever hear it, showing that he's not going to start just flooding the market just because there's a bunch of new eyeballs on him from him winning this beef. Even his pop-out concert could have been at a much bigger venue, something like the Staples Center, but he chose to do it in Inglewood to keep it authentic to his city, showing you that it's really about the art and it's really about his heritage. That's what he values. Meanwhile, if you want to talk milk in a beef, after Drake destroyed Meek Mill in 2015, he went on to put out 3 projects in less than 2 years after that beef. He also performed back-to-back in Philly, Meek Mill's hometown. And when he was beefing Kanye West and Pusha T back in 2018, his entire Scorpion album was riddled with sneak disses about them. After Pusha T exposed his son on the story of Adidon, Drake kind of backed out of that beef, saying that he didn't want to release any more diss tracks, but then he went on to drop an album full of references to the two artists after he decided and declared that he was not going to participate in the beef any longer. So you want to talk about Kendrick milking this thing because he did a concert after he released that diss track? Then what do you think about Drake performing back-to-back in Philadelphia after destroying Meek Mill? Or you want to say that, oh, Kendrick is milking this because he put out a video to Not Like Us after taking the W in the beef? But meanwhile, before Not Like Us ever released, Drake was teasing this massive diss track. He was saying that he was about to press the red button and destroy Kendrick's career. And what he did was he dropped Family Matters and it had an accompanying music video to it. So if Drake is allowed to drop music videos to his diss tracks and that's not considered milking anything, then why isn't Kendrick Lamar? And to top it all off and emphasize that Kendrick really lets the music do the talking, he hasn't released a single other track after dropping Not Like Us. Meanwhile, Drake has been desperately attempting to make the world forget about the massive loss he took by deleting all his diss tracks off of Instagram and dropping like 6 new records ever since the beef ended. And he's been doing it in a pretty interesting way and releasing these records in unconventional methods relative to how he usually drops a record. See, even with the diss tracks he was releasing, aside from Family Matters, he didn't put anything out on streaming services, showing that he may not have been confident that he could beat Kendrick Lamar from a sales perspective in this whole battle. Push-Ups was released on streaming platforms, however, it was first leaked online, and many fans thought he leaked it himself to test out if people actually liked the record before he officially released it. And now he seems to be consistently doing this with every new song he releases. Before he put out the songs with Camila Cabello or Gordo, he previewed all of them online to gauge the fans' reaction to them. Now he just did the same thing with the record that many fans think will be his comeback track on a song titled SOD with Lil Yachty. See, he hasn't released the track officially, but he did premiere it on Kai Cenat's stream. And it's a really interesting initiative that Kai Cenat's taking where he's doing this new series called Unreleased Radio, where basically he has artists send him their unreleased records and he premieres them on his stream. It's cool to see the way that hip-hop has transitioned. Like years ago, radio hosts like Funkmaster Flex would premiere records on the radio and then you'd have to wait, days or weeks later until the artist officially officially released it onto iTunes, or you could go buy it in stores. Nowadays, it's platforms like Kais and Knots that are gaining the majority of viewership from the youth, and as a result, it makes sense that he teams up with rappers and drops their new music on his platform for fans to critique it before they officially release it. But yeah, so Drake was the first one to do this. He sent Kai his brand new song, which could be titled Super Soak, and it's not bad. I gotta give it to him. I mean, he comes in with a smooth delivery. The beat's laid back. He is doing the classic Drake with the melodies. Something I don't like, which I feel like he's been doing for a couple of years now, is I feel like Drake always comes on a track with a very monotone flow and doesn't really switch it up for the entirety of the track. Even a record I love, like Hours in Silence, like he comes in with nice melodies, but he doesn't switch up the delivery or the cadence throughout the entire record. It's just him spitting that same flow over and over again on different bars. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this song doesn't sound half bad. I think if anything, out of all the records he's released so far, all the dance records, the songs with Sexy Red, like this is the closest track that's going to get Drake back to where he wants to be. And despite the apparent lack of confidence that Drake has right now, as he keeps premiering music online instead of just officially releasing it, because I mean, obviously it'd be a bad look if he keeps releasing a bunch of tracks. Like this would already be his 8th record that he's released after the beef, and if all of them failed to chart or become hits, it'd create a bad public perception for Drake. It would show that maybe he doesn't have that superpower that he once did of being able to easily drop hit after hit. And on this record, he seems to be either taking subliminal shots or just referencing Soulja Boy, as he says SOD's Super Soak. If you guys didn't know, SOD is the name of Soulja Boy's record label. I don't know if one artist ever came out of that record label, but yeah, Soulja Boy's got a record label along with a video game company and a watch company, along with many other ventures. He also has a beef with Drake apparently currently, as he's been dissing him continuously on Twitter. And he kind of has reason to. I mean, if you guys don't remember, early on in Drake's career, he actually copied a lot of Soulja Boy's flows on his songs I'm On One and Miss Me. Soulja Boy even made reference to this on The Breakfast Club, where he claims that he taught Drake everything he knows, and says that Drake copied his whole flow word for word, bar for bar. And the two teamed up on the record We Made It back in 2013, legendary track. And it seemed like they were on good terms until recently Soulja Boy joined the many other artists who have a beef with Drake by going at him on Twitter. And so this song seems to be in reference to that, but it's interesting because this song actually sounds like it was something that was recorded back when Drake was recording Her Loss. I mean, everything from the fact that Lil Yachty is featured on this record, and at the time of Her Loss, Yachty and Drake were collaborating a lot. I mean, a reference track leaked of Jumbotron Poppin', showing that Yachty wrote the entire record, along with the song Back Outside Boys on Her Loss. And Yachty was actually an executive producer on that record, and this song has the same type of delivery, the same type of beat as a track like Privileged Rappers off of Her Loss. So yeah, it seems like an unreleased track from that era, but it's interesting to think if this is what's going to help Drake make that comeback, or if he needs to evolve and change up his style and try something new. I mean, it's a good record, but I keep saying that I think the best way, or maybe even the only way Drake could make a real comeback where he's back to being loved by the public, back to putting out hits effortlessly, and back to being the #1 rapper in the game from a success perspective, is by dropping like a 12-track short album, concise, with a theme to it, and have no features on that record, showing that, you know, the whole industry could go against you and you don't need them. You can make hits on your own. You can make amazing albums on your own, and also getting more introspective with the bars, talking about everything you've been through in the last year with all these beefs that have happened, all the relationships with women that a lot of these beefs have started from, and teaming up with 40 to give us that signature Drake production that made Drake big in the first place. Yeah, I think he needs to pull the J. Cole route and just drop an album with no features, go platinum with no features. But otherwise, I think it's going to be interesting to think of who is Drake actually going to collaborate with? Which rappers are going to be willing to actually get on a song with Drake going forward? I mean, Kendrick called him out for being a colonizer within Atlanta. Do you think any Atlanta rapper is going to want to collaborate with him after that? It seems like 21 Savage is still loyal to him, and obviously him and Yachty are like best friends, and they paint each other's nails, so I think he's always safe to get a Lil Yachty feature for sure. But is that really what we want from Drake, or do we want to see him collaborating with better rappers? I mean, I was even disappointed by the features on For All the Dogs. Like, the last thing I want to hear is a song with Drake and Sexy Red, or Yeet, or even Central C or 21 Savage. Like, I don't really care to see him collaborating anymore with 21 Savage. I think we've heard enough of them together. As amazing as Her Loss was, I think we've heard what we needed to hear from them. He's recently teased that he might drop music with Dave, the UK rapper, and that could be dope. They have a really dope collaboration called Wanna Know that was released in 2016, which is great, and Dave is a great rapper, great projects. I've always said he's kind of like the UK version of Drake, really good with the melodies, good at making hits, good at the more introspective, emotional music. So I think that would be a great rapper to get in the booth with for sure. He was also spotted taking pictures with Lil Baby at Michael Rubin's white party, so who knows, maybe we'll get a collaboration from them as well. But considering Lil Baby seems like he's far out of his prime at this point, I don't think working with a guy like that is what's going to help Drake get another banger on his hands. I think, again, he needs to go back to his roots, click up with 40, give us that melodic singing / rapping that we know and love him for, and also putting more effort in the bars. The deluxe edition of For All the Dogs was great. That Scary Hours 3 project, like, I want to hear him rapping at least on that level, if not better. Take us back to the Nothing Was the Same days. Start talking about your relationship with your family. Give us something interesting. Like, forget the collaborations with Sexy Red and Yeet. I'd also love to see him click up with Lil Wayne again. They haven't dropped a track together in years. And some of Drake's first hits and some of his biggest hits really were with Lil Wayne. They bring out the best in each other for sure. And we know that Lil Wayne is definitely loyal to Drake. He was actually recently performing in Las Vegas and he was wearing Drake's OVO chains while performing his song The Motto. And during that performance, he started rapping, "They don't like us, they don't like us," kind of interpolating Kendrick's song They Not Like Us by saying they don't like us, like, you know, they're not on our side. So as Drake's former label owner, really the first person that introduced the world to Drake and mentored him the most, I definitely want to see the two click up together. And I think that's what we need, right? Like, Kendrick's whole argument against Drake and all of his disses was that Drake is not a part of this culture. And all the collabs he's done with, especially the Atlanta artists, were kind of just Drake leeching off their sound. So what better way to debunk all these claims by clicking up with the person who brought you in the game and arguably one of the best rappers alive and just bringing it back to hip hop, giving us amazing rapping on a song with Wayne. Yeah, it's interesting to think if Drake will ever go back to being the most dominant rapper from a sales perspective. I mean, he's still racking up streams every single day more than any other rapper. There's no denying his catalog, but what are you going to do in the future? How are you going to move in a way where people don't think that you've fallen off? And obviously you've lost a lot of resources, right? You can't go click up with Ross or Future or Metro Boomin. So you're left with a lot less rappers to collaborate with, which in turn means a lot less sounds and styles to incorporate into your own music. So it's like, where do you go from here to make sure that you keep delivering hits consistently? But I'll let you guys decide that one, and let me know in the comments, do you guys think that this new track with Yachty will be what Drake needs to make a comeback? What do you think his next move's going to be? Is he going to drop an album this year? And what do you want on it? Do you want that classic Drake with the melodies? Do you want him to go back to delivering bars at a high level? Do you want him to just drop a straight album, no features, like forget everyone else in the game and show us why we love you? Or do you want him to team up with his former mentor and drop a banger with him? He was also seen with 50 Cent recently, so who knows? Maybe we'll get some interesting collaborations from Drake in the future. Let me know what you guys want to see in the comments and what videos you want to see next, and I'll catch you all in the next one.